Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Constant Taylor, and welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest, and let me tell you, you guys are in for a treat. You're going to want to listen to this entire program because this person is going to share some very powerful information with you guys. Our special guest today is Elaine Fogel. Elaine has been speaking professionally for over 8 years. Her primary content is customer orientation and branding, both personal and business branding. And she also does some nonprofit work as well. Elaine is based out of Phoenix. Her book is called Beyond Your Logo, 7 Brand Ideas That Matter Most for Small Business Success. And that book is coming out November 1st. Elaine, that's quite a bio. Great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Constant. It's great being with you.
Thank you for coming. Now, to kick off the show, I'd like to ask you to tell our listeners about your business experience and the types of groups that you speak to and the content that you cover with them.
Sure, no problem. You ask a speaker to talk. My God, that's like,
I know.
An open-ended, never-ending saga.
I know.
But I love speaking because it involves a couple of the talents that I've had over my years. And that was starting off as a singer-songwriter, which I did in my youth. And I did some theater, and I was also a teacher years and years ago. And so being a professional speaker, it's great because it allows me to get up in front of people, be a ham, engage them, and have fun while imparting something hopefully educational. So I just took to it so well, and I love doing it. I speak to many different types of groups. Sometimes it could be for internal training, for example, being called to different parts of the country to work with the staff of any type of organization, whether it has to do with customer orientation / service / engagement. There's all kinds of permutations today of customer training, but it all boils down to basically the customer experience. And so I do that, and I also do speaking to groups, whether they are nonprofit associations where, it's a conference, they get their members together, an annual meeting, that type of thing. And I've also spoken at larger events, the Las Vegas type events where there are different sessions on many different topics. And I've spoken on branding, I've spoken on cause marketing, marketing in general. And it's basically all a very similar thread: marketing, branding, communication, customer orientation. It's all part of that larger umbrella. As many different permutations as there are, it really boils down to the same premise, right?
Exactly. Now, when you're speaking on customer orientation, customer service, what is the main idea that you want to get across to your audience?
There's one simple idea, and it's in the book as well, and that's putting customers at the center of every action. So when, an organization, a small business, a large business, any business, nonprofit, board of directors, doesn't matter whom, you have to think, how will this decision or this discussion affect our customers? Because a lot of times, organizations make decisions based on all kinds of factors. And sometimes it's easy to get boggled down with the internal infrastructure and internal politics and internal needs. But as long as there's this question that involved in every single discussion and every single decision, how will this affect our customers? If you put the customer at the center of every single decision and every single action, it'll work out.
Have you had any cases where you have dealt with a shareholder-centric organization and you were trying to get them to transfer into a more of a customer-centric organization?
Oh, absolutely. Most of the customer-oriented orientation workshops that I've done internally for different organizations has focused on that. You know, I can recall one organization where I did 2 days of training in Illinois. And, you know, it was an organization that had been around a while but had undergone some new leadership. And there was a new CEO maybe 2 years in. And there was, you know, what happens when there's a new leader sometimes, and there's a shift in direction, and people are unsure, they're feeling insecure, and they know that the CEO plans to make some major changes, and they're all insecure, and they're all like at each other, and it's just not a healthy environment. And then how do you then take that group and, you know, have them think about the customer first? And let me say one thing too, it's not just the external customer, it's also the internal customer, because each employee is an internal customer of the other. So if you don't treat and honor and respect your internal customers, how can you possibly do that with external customers?
So in terms of, so there's broad, you know, there's the speaking about it, and then there's the actual strategies and tactics and steps that it takes to get there. How do you take an organization from actually being internally driven to being customer-centric, like the specific steps? Right.
Well, you know, it would be nice if, as a speaker, organizations would look at this type of evolutionary movement as a holistic thing. What tends to happen in speaking business is you get brought in to do a training session. And, you know, that's great. You spend a day, you spend 2 days, you get everybody all worked up, all excited. They're all eager to work together and to move towards a better and more positive mindset with each other and with their external customers. But this is where there's a little bit of a downside. And that is, unless organizations continue the movement towards that change, it becomes kind of a non-starter. And that's where it's just very disappointing, you know, and I always tell clients when I come in and say, this is kind of the introduction, and I can help you implement it and develop kind of those customer service or customer orientation standards and continue to work with you. Now, some consultants and speakers do that, and they get to do that. Unfortunately, I haven't been engaged to do that, and I always tell them ahead of the time, you know, you don't want to waste your money on having somebody come in and kind of excite everybody, and then the next day it's back to normal, or quote-unquote normal, whatever that normal is. So, I mean, there are different steps you can do, but it has to be a holistic approach. It has to involve the HR people if it's a business that's large enough to have an HR person or has enough employees, because it's all part of not just changing your mindset and putting the customer at the center, but it's like, how do you handle, you know, upset and angry customers? How do you process customer complaints? How do you deal with your colleagues internally when there's conflict or strife? How do you retain your customers? How do you build in customer loyalty programs? How do you work in, from the HR perspective as well, the employee incentive and rewards program? Because there are so many wonderful tools out there that help engage employees to stay focused and to continue to drive home that mindset and attitude. And you know what, Constant, it all boils down to typically one individual who has to buy in, and that's the CEO or the president. And that's the person who really should be attending these sessions, because, you know, it's one of those things, unless there's buy-in from management, it's a gloss over.
Yep, I agree.
You know, it's a feel good day. Okay, everybody feels good, and then tomorrow it's back to the usual. And that's the downside of it. So they really have to have a strong commitment to this change and to this movement, and not just to, you know, get there and say, okay, we're here, but to also say, great, we've made a lot of progress. How do we maintain it? How do we reinforce it? How do we constantly keep this at the forefront of everything we do? And that's a whole mindset of a corporate structure. And when I say corporate constant, I don't mean just a corporation.
Right.
It could be any size organization.
Yeah.
Right? But if you look at the structure, it's got to be bought in from everybody.
And that's an excellent point. That a lot of times you'll have a really good presentation, or maybe a 2 or 3 day workshop. Everybody goes back fired up, and then they go back into that poisonous environment, and everything kind of goes back to.
I know, it's unfortunate, and I always tell them before they hire me, listen, I'd love to help you. I don't want you to waste your money, though. I mean, I want you to understand that I can come in and do this for you and set the stage and get things in motion, but somebody has to be responsible for the the continuity of this.
Right.
And if it's not me, somebody internally has to be able to do that.
Now, with the last few minutes that we have here, I'd like to shift to your book, which I absolutely love the title, Beyond Your
Thank
Logo.
you.
That is so powerful. 7 brand ideas that matter most for your small businesses. What key subjects and topics do you cover in this book?
Okay, well, for one thing, it covers 7 ideas, or basically strategic ideas that are important for any small business. And one of the reasons I wrote the book was because I knew that, from reading so many posts and articles and speaking to people, that there's this ubiquitous misconception of what a brand is altogether. So, there's a lot of people who still think the brand is the logo, the look, the colors you choose, the font style of your logo, but it's just so much more. And so I wanted to write the book because I wanted to impart the concept that the brand is everything. It emanates from the mindsets of everybody involved in it, their attitudes, their behaviors, and that's what builds an organization or a company's brand reputation. So it's really all about all those things. And so I break it down into 7 brand ideas, and I sort of take it to the point where each is a different chapter in the book. So the first one has to do with the brand itself, and kind of explains, and a strong brand is essential for small business success. And I talk about the benefits and what brand differentiation is in a crowded marketplace, and what are the elements of a strong brand. So it's kind of an introduction thing. Then the second chapter, idea number 2, is exactly what we're talking about, which is put customers at the center of every action. And it goes through all the benefits of doing that, and how customer service is the heart of a customer-centric brand, and how customer engagement is the soul of a customer-centric brand. And it goes into all kinds of ideas and resources and places to go to find information. And idea 3 is about getting marketing and branding help when you need it. And when you can't afford to hire external people, where you can go to find it, which blogs to read, where you can get some inexpensive assistance, many different ideas about that. Idea 4 is professionalism pays off. And that's such an important part. I mean, you could think that a company or an organization is terrific, and you walk into the office and everything's in disarray, it looks like a mess, it's dirty. It's like all of a sudden that brand impression is so negative, it clouds everything about that company.
Yeah.
So
now,
it's really what?
No, that's very powerful. And for the final 3, we're going to ask the viewers to go out and purchase the book, which is coming out at the beginning of November. That's Beyond Your Logo, 7 brand ideas that matter most for your small business. Now, if the listeners would like to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that?
My email address is Elaine, Elaine, @elainefogel.com. And if they visit the website, elainefogel.com, they'll find more information about the book, its contents. There's a video about it. I'm really excited about this, Constant. It's my first book in this field. And, when you have something to share and you want people to gain something from it so that they can better what they're doing, it's just it's the teacher in me. It's like I get really excited.
Well, I can feel your passion. I felt your passion before we actually started the interview. We had our pre-discussion. I can feel it now, and I'm sure that our listeners are feeling it. So it's been a true pleasure and honor for you to come on the show. I know that you're a very busy person, and thank you very much for coming. And we look forward to your book coming out really soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was nice chatting with you.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.